Hello everyone and welcome. Sit back, relax, make a cup of tea or whatever you like to drink and get ready for new stories from Yellowcat. Send your own favorite stories in the comments below and maybe they'll be in our new video. So subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed yet and let's get started. What is your story when you fired someone or someone was fired because of you? Part 7. I was employed at a plant that produced catheters and other medical equipment. One day, a work order arrived, and my manager entered the clean room to give it to me and enter the order specifications for the production run, which included details like dip speed, dwell time, extraction speed, and cure time. The only thing I was prohibited from doing was entering the specs. The manager or supervisor had to take care of that. Just for fun, I checked the specs again after he leaves before beginning the test run. The specifications weren't correct, like completely wrong. I asked the manager, who literally just checked them, if he knows something that I don't and if he wants me to correct them over the phone. He was adamant that I should run the machine according to his specifications and leave the specs alone. I asked him why, not knowing he would, but I got a strange feeling that all he could say was, they won't know the difference. Now that I know that these catheters go inside of patients and can seriously hurt them if they break, I call the production manager to let him know what's happening. After less than 10 seconds on the phone, all he tells me to do is stop working and just hang out. Alright, I hadn't even begun when I decided to take a break and exit the clean room. After a mere 5 minutes, I hear a loud argument, a door being slammed, and the production manager entering the clean room to input the specifications into the machine while I confirm them in front of him. If this ever happens again with anyone, please let me know, he says, turning to face me, for myself. He was sent home and placed on suspension. After they launched an investigation, medical devices involve a ton of paperwork and paper trails, they discovered that he had been manipulating the figures for over a month, not just with this particular customer. The manufacturing company threatened to find another one if my boss, who was in charge of the products, wasn't fired right away by the company that had been ordering them. After a week-long investigation, he left because a multi-million-dollar contract was at stake. He was an absolute S-stain of a man and our new assistant manager at Denny's. He frequently exaggerated his Freemasonry as if it made him some sort of elder god who saw and knew everything, and he would disparage anyone he could at any chance. When his mother accidentally came in to eat, the 47-year-old man began lying about having served in the military. One night, this Freemason attempted to show off for me. I'll give you the shortened version of the long story. It was really important to me that I go somewhere after my shift. In order to clock out at precisely 11 p.m., I made sure to finish all of my work. I punched in my numbers as soon as the clock struck midnight and headed for the door. When he stopped me, we had the following conversation. The AGM. Where do you think you're going? He has the voice of the Incredibles' Bob Parr's boss. Me. I'm heading home. Night. General Manager. I don't think so. You're not done here. You. My checklist is on the counter. I checked it twice. Peace. AGM. You know what? So how about this? Pie case opened. AGM. It's dirty. Me. Tracy did some work on that. I'll see you later. She's off for the next 2 days. You'll have to ask her about Monday. AGM. Alright, let me tell you what. Tonight, you can clean it. After that, you can tidy the freezer. You can then clean the cook's grease traps after that. How's that to you? My response. You're joking. AGM. I'm not. Return to this place. I tossed him the bird, flicked off my name tag, and left. AGM. Avoid this action! Return here! Without any backup, it would have just been my best friend and I working on it on Saturday night. I felt bad about abandoning him in this manner, so I gave the GM a call the following day. Me. Hey, you've probably heard about the incident. If you could just let me work this shift tonight, I wouldn't want to leave friend all by myself. GM. Look, don't be alarmed by it. Simply enter. When I went in, I discovered that the AGM had been fired. Since I had been employed there for 4 years and was one of the most dependable servers, it turned out that the general manager was also sick of him. For 2 more years, while I completed my college education, I worked there and laughed uncontrollably. As a legal assistant, I worked at a smaller law firm with 4 lawyers. It was known that one of the lawyers had anger issues and a short fuse. My martial arts background of more than 20 years has kept me from worrying about being able to take care of myself, even though I'm not a very big guy. Also, I had only worked there for 5 months, so I was still very much a trainee. Attorney, on the other hand, was about 6'2" and maybe 240 pounds. I weighed 145 pounds and am 5 feet 10 inches tall. After half a dozen instances where said attorney verbally attacked me for things that were not my fault, swearing at, yelling, and threatening me, I brought it to the attention of the other attorneys. I really think that everyone in the office heard all of these things as they happened. They just ignored it like it was nothing out of the ordinary. They knew it wasn't my fault and I wouldn't take it anymore. The next time it happened, about 3 weeks later, it was because of another mistake made by the lawyer that I would not have had anything to do with because I was so new to my job. I work out front in the main reception area where everyone in the office can see me. The area where customers wait was right next to my desk. 2 clients and a possible client were in the waiting area that day. The lawyer rushed into my workspace and threw a heavy file binder at me, hitting me in the chest. As he stomped his way to me, he cursed and yelled at me. He grabbed the front of my shirt, pulled me out of my chair, and slammed me into a wall before I could think of anything else. I give him a smile and then start to defend myself. I didn't go crazy or anything, but I did put him on the floor and literally held his arms behind his back while he was face down on the carpet. After everything was over, the other lawyers dragged me into the conference room and gave me a speech. As you might guess, I wasn't in the mood for any of that. I told them my side of the story, that there were 3 witnesses, and that I had my phone recording the whole time, which wasn't really true. I also said I was taking the rest of the day off, which was paid, and that he had to be gone by the time I got back to work tomorrow, or I would be filing charges, putting the video online, and suing the company for what happened. That night, another legal assistant called me to tell me that the lawyer had been dismissed and had cleaned out his office that afternoon. I became the office hero among the people who aren't lawyers because he wouldn't be back. Follow-up. I worked at the company for 3 more months before leaving for a much better job. And better. Do you have any wild and wacky HOA stories to share? Part 7. During my time in the past, I worked as a landscaper for a very wealthy cul-de-sac that consisted of 4 houses. This neighborhood is not my neighborhood. It was estimated that each home was worth between $5 and $7 million. Their very small neighborhood was subject to a number of rules that were extremely stringent for some reason. A successful surgeon, who also had a side job of sweeping the lawns of his neighbors, was the person in charge of the association. In all honesty, the house that I worked on was on a lot that was significantly larger than a football field. I can say with absolute certainty that I spent approximately 3 hours with my coworker making certain that every single inch of their lawn was spotless. Indeed it was. Everything was taken care of. No, I'm not joking. This enormous backyard was home to a single seedling of a weed. They charged the homeowner $150 for a weed that was so small it was literally smaller than 4 blades of grass. The account was terminated from our employment. In the past, I've worked on a variety of landscaping projects. When it comes to a lawn, however, anything can happen within a week. This individual worked as a surgeon full-time, but he made it a point to walk through the lawns of his neighbors in order to issue fines. $150 is a significant amount of money, but for this individual, it's a drop in the bucket. I'm still unable to believe it. We were informed by a homeowners association that we were required to cut down a tree that was unauthorized in our backyard. To tell you the truth, it was already there when we moved in, and it's been growing for a number of months without them expressing any displeasure. It was our assumption that they had planted it in order to protect our back windows from sunlight during the summer. No way. Because I was protesting my having to remove it, they actually called my place of employment to express their displeasure. In the end, I could not contain my anger and ended up ripping it out of the ground, which resulted in a nasty scar appearing in the lawn. Additionally, they voiced their dissatisfaction with that. Then there was the lawn in the backyard. Too many mounds of dirt / bare patches / gravel, they complained about it. Due to the snow, the contractors that they hired to be in charge of renovating the house never completed the backyard. In the event that the backyard was in a poor condition, they committed to repairing it in the spring. No matter how many times they were reminded, called, or pleaded with, they were unable to follow through. They claimed that gophers, groundhogs, and field mice were responsible for the mounds. I brought it to their attention the fact that the lease stipulated that they were responsible for the pest control both outside and in the yard. Not only did they not like that, but they also didn't follow through with fixing it. I was repeatedly asked to carry out the task for them. I've never done so. According to their word, it would require a modification allowance/permit, and when I did put in the request, they did not want to approve that. As a result, I was not permitted to bring a tiller to it. In essence, they anticipated that I would plant over 1/4 of an inch of topsoil and transplant the seeds. Not successful because the ground beneath was too compacted to allow for any movement. In addition, the lawn was never reseeded. Due to the fact that they did not have any grounds to go after me for things that they had been responsible for fixing, they decided to pick on me about things such as trash in the yard, which had blown in from nearby unsecured dumpsters, lawn unkempt/unmowed, which I mowed every week, and holiday decorations up for too long, because we had our tree up invisible in the window until the middle of January, or any other reason they could think of to put nasty grams on the front door. As time went on, my wife eventually became frustrated with it, and she lodged a complaint with their headquarters. It would appear that they have lost their dogged determination, at least for the time being. The woman who sold her house to my parents was very rude. It was a pretty nice neighborhood. Our fence goes from the front of our house to the back of our land. It was built by her. Looks like the HOA rules say that fences can only go up to the back of the house. Wasn't a big deal, but this woman didn't seem to care. She fought hard to keep her fence back from the HOA. She finally told them that they were bothering her because she was black, and they stopped because they didn't want to be sued for discrimination. Well, my whole white family moved in, and the very same day, someone started complaining that our fence was getting extra attention. They wrote a letter to the president and tried to bring it up at every HOA meeting for a few months so they could move this fence about 50 feet. They tried to spread lies about our family that they didn't know. The president was a nice guy who told them it wasn't worth a fight because it was old business, meetings are for new business, and you can't just bother someone because of what the previous owner did. Just because it's funny, the HOA didn't have a real president. The guy that acted as president had the title of vice president so that when anyone complained about his decisions, he could tell them the president's spot was open if they could do a better job. A few years ago when my grandfather died, I got a house as inheritance. It was a great time for me because I had just graduated and it wasn't too far from where I wanted to work. A development company bought a lot of land nearby about 2 to 3 years ago to build a semi-gated community. A few yards away from my house is the end of the community fence, but it's not fully closed. From the HOA about fees, my lawn, and painting my house now that people had moved in. I emailed the president of the HOA, but they never replied. I showed up at their last meeting and told them that my house wasn't in the neighborhood, so it wasn't part of the HOA. The president and board members tried to say that I was because of how close my property is. There's proof from both the development company and the county that this is not true. When I got home from the meeting, the president emailed me to tell me that I should try to fit in with the rest of the community because I was lowering property values. I refused. I don't mind lawn care. Maybe I don't always have time to keep up with the height of my lawn, and the color of my house isn't much different than theirs. So I didn't understand why they were so against me. But they didn't stop and kept sending letters. Now, the problem is not only the lawn and the color of the house. They don't like the color of my curtains and my backyard, no different from the front yard. Then I suspected something wrong. They were on my property and looking into my backyard. And that's already trespassing. I decided to install cameras to feel safer. I decided to save all their emails. Started collecting evidence. And here's another one. They don't like my garden gnome in the backyard. I checked the cameras, and the video clearly shows all the HOA board members quietly looking around my place, peering in the windows, and just acting like it's their property. I immediately notified the police, wrote a statement, and decided I would sue them for trespassing and harassment. Letters, long story short, I won. They got a restraining order and a huge fine. When the HOA members found out about it, they removed the old board. Now you don't hear a word about them. What a pleasure. If you want to watch the part 6, click the link here. Thank you for subscribing, likes, and comments. We're very happy to see you all in the comments too. Thanks for your support.